You've felt it, haven't you? That quiet exhaustion that seeps beneath your skin, the kind that doesn't come from the body, but from the soul. The world tells you to be strong, to give more, to love harder. And you do. You always do. Until one day something in you begins to break, not violently but silently, like a star imploding in the dark. You start to notice it in the smallest moments, when you give your heart and it feels like it disappears into an endless void. When your intuition warns you, but you ignore it, because love must mean sacrifice, right? When the people you heal walk away whole while you remain in fragments. This is not weakness. This is the empath's path, the sacred wound that no one sees. And right now you stand at its edge. You think you've been abandoned, but what if this collapse is not the end? What if this pain, this emptiness, this silence is the initiation? The moment when the soul whispers, "Enough pretending." Every empath reaches this point, the threshold between identity and awakening. It's the moment you can no longer sustain the illusion that you must save everyone to feel worthy. The moment you see that your light has been feeding the very shadows you tried to escape. And here's the truth you've resisted all along. You were never meant to heal others. You were meant to remember yourself. You see, empathy without consciousness becomes bondage. You absorb everything, pain, grief, chaos, until you confuse compassion with self-destruction. You think the ache in others is your responsibility. You think the silence after giving is peace, but it isn't. It's your spirit trying to breathe again. The collapse isn't punishment. It's the soul's rebellion against the false self you built to survive. The world taught you to shrink, to please, to fix. But the psyche, your inner self, demands something else entirely: authenticity. And authenticity is not gentle. It tears apart everything that was built on fear. You are not falling apart, you are being unmade. The empath's awakening doesn't begin with light, it begins with fire. Because the shadow must rise before illumination can occur. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That's where you are now, standing face to face with the unconscious, realizing that fate was never random. It was the reflection of your forgotten self. So breathe. Everything you're losing is everything that kept you asleep. And every emotion that overwhelms you now, the guilt, the sadness, the confusion, is not your enemy. It is your teacher. You are entering the sacred territory of transformation, the dark forest where every empath must walk alone. But remember this: solitude is not emptiness, it's the silence before creation. And soon you'll see that your collapse was never about breaking. It was about opening, about the dismantling of everything false so that the soul could finally speak in its own voice. This is your beginning. The final lesson is waiting. The question is, are you ready to hear it? You've always believed your gift was light, that to feel what others feel was proof of your goodness, your depth, your purpose. But empathy, unguarded, is a mirror turned inward, and every reflection it captures begins to blur your own face. It starts innocently. You sense someone's sadness, and before you know it, you're carrying it as if it were your own. Their fears become your whispers at night, their pain the pulse beneath your skin. You tell yourself this is love, to understand, to care, to merge. But slowly, quietly, you disappear. You attract the broken, the lost, the ones who speak in promises but live in wounds. And each time you try to save them, you mistake their chaos for connection. You say, "They need me." But the truth is more haunting. You need to be needed. That is the secret architecture of your suffering. It is not the world that drains you. It is your own compulsion to rescue what mirrors your unhealed self. You became the healer because somewhere inside, you were still trying to heal you. And so the cycle repeats, lover after lover, friend after friend, story after story. Each relationship begins like sunlight and ends like smoke, and each time you swear you'll learn, you'll stop, you'll guard your heart. But the pattern returns, not because you're weak, but because your shadow still writes your script. You see, your empathy has a twin, the shadow empath. It hides beneath the light, whispering, "If I can just make them happy, I will finally be safe." But safety born from self-erasure is a prison made of kindness. You forget that compassion without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. You confuse being intuitive with being responsible for everything that happens around you. You think that if you just love more, understand more, forgive more, the chaos will end. But every time you fix someone else's brokenness, you reinforce your own invisibility. This is the paradox of the empath. You see everyone's truth, except your own. Carl Jung called this the projection of the shadow, when the parts of yourself you cannot face are mirrored in the people you attract. You don't just see their wounds, you recognize them. You feel drawn to their darkness because it resonates with your own unspoken pain. It's not empathy, it's a soul trying to remember itself through others. But here's the turning point. Every repetition is not a failure. It's a message. The universe doesn't punish you, it reflects you. And until you face what your relationships are showing you, the same story will keep finding you, with different names and familiar endings. You may call it bad luck, you may call it love, but it's the psyche's way of saying, "Look at the wound, don't run this time." The shadow does not come to destroy you. It comes to integrate you. And integration begins the moment you stop asking, "Why do they treat me like this?" and start asking, "Why do I keep allowing it?" Every empath's awakening begins with this realization, that empathy without self-awareness becomes martyrdom. You are not meant to carry the pain of the world. You are meant to transform the way you relate to it. So pause, breathe. Look at the pattern that keeps returning to your life like a tide. Each repetition carries a symbol, a clue to your unconscious story. Maybe it's the parent who never saw you, the partner who drained you, the friend who only called in crisis. Each one a mirror, each one a teacher. And in this mirror, you'll begin to see something both terrifying and liberating. You've been giving love to others because you never learned to receive it from yourself. That realization hurts, like light entering the eyes of someone long in darkness. But it's also the moment your power begins to return, because once you see the pattern, it loses its control. Once you name the shadow, it can no longer hide in the faces of others. And when you finally say, "This pain is not mine to carry," the cycle cracks open. You'll feel disoriented at first, like a soul walking without a map. But beneath the confusion, something ancient stirs, the self, awakening from the dream of dependency. You are not here to save, you are here to see. And the act of seeing, truly seeing, is the first breath of liberation. The empath's pain was never the punishment, it was the preparation. Because to awaken, you must first understand what kept you asleep. And so, your lesson begins. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your missing half, waiting to come home. You've spent years trying to understand the pain, tracing it, naming it, forgiving it. But healing is not just understanding it, it's surrender. And surrender feels like dying, because in a way, it is. The empath's final lesson isn't about loving more. It's about letting go of the identities, the roles, the masks you wore to stay safe. You've been the giver, the savior, the listener, the one who always stays calm when everyone else breaks. But who are you when there's no one left to save? That silence you feel now, that hollow space after the collapse, is not emptiness. It's truth stripped bare. It's the sound of your ego dissolving, whispering its last defense. If I stop giving, will I still exist? You've built your sense of worth around being needed. Every gesture of kindness, every act of empathy became currency, proof that you belonged. But belonging born from service is fragile. It disappears the moment you stop performing. And now, as the illusions fall away, you meet the most terrifying question of all. Who am I without my pain? This is the death Jung spoke of, the ego death, the moment when the false self, built from survival, finally begins to crumble. The persona that once kept you safe now suffocates you. The walls you built to protect your heart have become your cage. You will resist. Every part of you will want to rebuild the familiar pattern, to call someone, to fix something, to prove your worth again. But that impulse is the voice of the dying self, begging to be remembered. Don't answer it. Let it fade. Because what comes next is not destruction. It's revelation. The death of the false self is the birth of the real one. It will not happen all at once. Ego death unfolds in whispers. The friendship you no longer force, the relationship you finally release, the silence you no longer fear. At first, you'll mistake peace for loneliness. But that's how rebirth begins. Quiet, unassuming, almost invisible. You start to realize that love does not mean merging. It means allowing. You learn that compassion without self-respect is just guilt dressed as virtue. You begin to understand that detachment is not coldness, it's clarity. You stop trying to change others, and instead, you turn toward the one person you've always abandoned, yourself. But here's the paradox. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means presence without possession. It means seeing another's pain without making it your home. It means feeling everything, yet being consumed by nothing. You'll cry, not out of despair, but because the soul finally feels safe enough to release. Tears become a baptism, washing away every identity you thought you had to maintain. You'll grieve who you were, the pleaser, the fixer, the one who carried everyone's storms. And grief, though heavy, is sacred. It's the psyche's way of honoring what once protected you. This is the moment when you stop confusing attachment with love. When you see that some connections were never meant to last, they were meant to awaken. They were mirrors, each one reflecting a fragment of your forgotten essence. The old you dies piece by piece. But in the ashes, something timeless stirs, the self Jung spoke of, the center that was always whole, waiting beneath the noise. You feel it like a pulse deep in your chest, quiet, steady, unshakable. And when you reach that stillness, the fear begins to fade. You stop chasing meaning because you realize meaning has been inside you all along. You stop begging for love because you are love, unconditioned, undefended, unending. You will lose people, you will lose illusions, but you will not lose yourself. For the first time, you will find it. And that's the final lesson. The empath's awakening is not about becoming light. It's about embracing both light and shadow as one. It's about loving without losing yourself. It's about standing in the storm and realizing you are the sky. When the old self finally dissolves, silence returns, not as emptiness, but as peace. You no longer absorb every emotion around you. You witness them, you honor them, but they no longer define you. And in that silence, the truth becomes clear. The collapse was never a punishment. It was a sacred initiation. The ego didn't die because you failed. It died because you were ready to live. Now, as the dust settles, the real awakening begins. But it won't look like enlightenment, not yet. It will look like stillness, like breathing without fear, like existing without apology. You are no longer chasing light, you are becoming it. There comes a moment, quiet, almost imperceptible, when the pain no longer defines you. You wake one morning and realize the heaviness is still there, but it no longer owns you. The world hasn't changed. You have. This is illumination, not the blinding flash of enlightenment you imagined, but the soft, steady glow that rises after a long night. It doesn't demand anything, it simply is. You used to chase meaning, trying to decode every wound, every sign, every coincidence, but now life itself becomes the message. You begin to see that what once broke you was never meant to destroy you. It was designed to make you conscious. You no longer ask, "Why did this happen to me?" You whisper instead, "What is this teaching me?" And in that shift, something extraordinary happens. The same experiences that once triggered pain now open doors to wisdom. You start to see the people who hurt you with new eyes. They were not villains. They were carriers of your shadow, mirrors of your forgotten strength. You can forgive them now, not because they deserve it, but because you do. Forgiveness is not a moral act. It is liberation. It's the soul unclenching its fist around the past. And as you let go, space opens. Space for clarity, creativity, peace. You begin to sense that everything in your life, every loss and every heartbreak, was part of an intricate design to bring you here, to this very moment, where suffering transforms into meaning. You no longer crave validation. You no longer rush to fix. You listen, not to react, but to understand. And when you look into someone's eyes now, you don't drown in their emotions. You see their divine struggle, the same one you've walked through. You recognize the human soul beneath the noise. That recognition is compassion, no longer a burden, but a bridge. Carl Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." You understand this now. Becoming isn't about adding, it's about remembering. You are not here to perfect yourself. You are here to return, to the center, to the self, to the quiet awareness that has always been watching. Illumination is not escape from darkness. It is the acceptance of it. You no longer divide your experiences into good or bad, light or shadow. You see how both are threads of the same fabric, woven by the unconscious to reveal the totality of who you are. And this realization changes everything. Because once you stop fighting life, life begins to flow through you. You start to notice beauty in the smallest things. The way sunlight falls on a wall, the sound of rain, the stillness between breaths. You begin to live from the soul, not for survival. You act not out of fear, but out of alignment. There's no longer urgency, only presence. No longer noise, only rhythm. You begin to feel life as music. Sometimes soft, sometimes dissonant, but always meaningful. And as this awareness deepens, something ancient awakens within you, a memory older than time. That you are not separate from the universe. You are its expression, its heartbeat, its witness. Every person who crosses your path, every challenge, every moment of joy, all of it is consciousness meeting itself in different forms. You no longer seek control. You seek connection. You no longer seek peace, you are peace. This is the rebirth of the empath, not the fragile soul who absorbs everything, but the awakened one who transmits clarity wherever they go. You no longer mirror pain. You reflect truth. You no longer drown in emotion. You channel meaning. And the most profound part of this awakening is its simplicity. You don't need to become anything. You already are everything. The suffering, the detachment, the ego death. They were never punishments. They were stages of remembering. You had to forget yourself to understand love. You had to lose yourself to find yourself. And now, in this stillness, you see it clearly. The path was never outside you. It was always you. You no longer search for the light at the end of the tunnel because you've realized the tunnel itself was made of your own consciousness. And when you turn inward, light floods every corner. This is illumination, when awareness replaces reaction, when presence replaces fear, when love finally stops being a wound and becomes a way of being. You are free, not because life is perfect, but because you've stopped resisting its imperfection. You no longer need certainty. You trust the unfolding. And in that trust, the soul whispers its final secret. You were never broken. You were only becoming whole. And now you return, not as you were, fragile, searching, divided, but as something entirely new. You've walked through the collapse, the shadow, the death of the old self. You've watched illusions burn, identities dissolve, and meanings transform. And through it all, you never truly lost yourself. You simply shed what you were never meant to carry. You stand now at the edge of your awakening, not above life, but within it. The world hasn't changed, but your eyes have. You see now that the empath's journey was never about escaping sensitivity. It was about refining it, turning feeling into wisdom, compassion into discernment, and love into presence. Your heart remains open, but no longer bleeding. It beats with rhythm, not reaction. You no longer rush to heal others because you've discovered a deeper form of healing, being whole in front of them. Your presence becomes medicine, silent, grounded, effortless. You don't carry people anymore. You remind them of their own wings. This is the true awakening, not the ecstasy of transcendence, but the serenity of embodiment. You've descended back into the world, fully human, fully aware. And in that integration, life itself becomes the teacher, the temple, the mirror. You notice how every face holds a story, every wound hides a truth, and every ending carries the seed of renewal. You no longer fear suffering because you see its purpose. It opens the soul, humbles the mind, and teaches love to expand beyond condition. You understand now that the light was never meant to banish the dark. It was meant to embrace it. For only in the union of opposites, shadow and self, giving and receiving, chaos and order, does true consciousness emerge. You breathe differently now, not from survival, but from reverence. Every inhale feels like gratitude, every exhale, release. You have become both the observer and the observed, both the question and the answer. You realize there was never a destination. The path itself was the awakening. You remember Jung's words, "There is no awakening without suffering." And for the first time, you understand them not as a warning, but as a promise. Suffering wasn't the enemy, it was the doorway. It stripped you bare so that love could find its true form. Not dependency, not rescue, but presence. Now, as you step forward, you carry nothing but awareness. No armor, no masks, no stories of who you were or what you must become. Only stillness, only truth. You are not the empath anymore. You are the self, vast, luminous, and unafraid. You have remembered that sensitivity is not a wound, but a window, a portal through which the soul perceives the sacredness of all things. And so, you return to life not as someone seeking light, but as someone embodying it. Your empathy no longer drains you, it anchors you. Your intuition no longer frightens you, it guides you. Your heart no longer bleeds, it radiates. Because the final lesson has been learned, you were never here to heal others. You were here to awaken, and by awakening, you heal everything. The world needs your awareness now, not your exhaustion. It needs your wholeness, not your sacrifice. And as you walk among others, something invisible but undeniable begins to happen. The light within you ignites the light within them. This is how the empath transforms the world, not through saving, but through being. So, breathe one last time into this moment. Feel the stillness that once terrified you now cradle you. Listen to the silence. That silence is you, infinite, aware, alive. You have crossed the threshold. The suffering has ended, and from its ashes, a soul has awakened. Welcome home.